Well, first, are your listings optimized, right? Can you sell what you already have so you can generate more capital, so you can get more inventory, so you can reach that goal? Like, that's number one, right? Because we want to sell the inventory we have. Get it out. Move that money. Are you using a repricer? Because that makes a huge difference in your business model. It's helping you reach the buy box. If you need to liquidate things, like those kinds of questions, I'll be starting to ask them.
Hello and welcome to the Wholesale Made Easy podcast, where we believe selling on Amazon shouldn't be hard, and we're going to prove it. My name is Dylan Carter, and I'm one of the co-founders at VinDrive, a tool that helps Amazon wholesale sellers streamline their businesses, stay organized, and land more profitable accounts. I'm sitting down with other successful wholesale sellers, and together we're sharing lessons learned and what it really takes to succeed with wholesale. Today's guest is Jessica Hill, founder of Ladies of FBA and a 3+ year full-time Amazon seller. Currently, she's a 6-figure monthly seller looking to help others achieve their dreams and grow their e-commerce businesses. In this episode, me and Jess talk about extreme couponing, getting your previous boss to fund your new business venture, and hitting your business goals. I also want to take a minute to thank a bunch of people who have reviewed the podcast. We're now on 60+ reviews, all 5 stars, except for one. I will find you, who gave me 4 stars. But I want to read 2 of the actual reviews that we got recently because they're amazing. One is from Amordo23, Wealth of Knowledge. This is a wonderful podcast filled with tons of helpful information, tips, and knowledge. I've really learned a great deal from Dylan and his great guest. I'm looking forward to future episodes of this podcast. Fantastic job. Next one is from Hustle Harder 10.2. Great podcast. I can't wait for more episodes to come out. I've learned from a lot so far. Looking to make the jump from RA to wholesale by summer. Keep the episodes coming. Thank you guys so much for the amazing and positive reviews. Now let's get to this episode. We're diving right into it because pickles and pancakes and peanut butter. Oh my, that's fantastic. All right, Jess, walk me through, how did you get into this world of, whatever you want to call it, e-commerce, Amazon, whatever you want to call it, right?
So I actually started in 2003. I was in college. My mom was going to estate sales, and so I would go with her. So eBay was my first platform, you could say, and we would buy like the depression glass and all the things from the estate sales. And so we did that. My mom said that she was doing that. She was working full time, but doing it to pay for my college. And I was just doing it because everybody needs money, right? So it's kind of funny because I went to college. I am a biologist. I ended up going into corporate for like 15 years and working in biology and IT. And so over the years, I did all these like side gigs, right? Side hustles where I always sold on eBay. I was a ticket scalper at one point.
No way.
Taylor Swift made me money. Justin Bieber made me money. Justin Timberlake made me money.
That's great.
So I was just like, it was always like hustling, like, because I want to have a life,
Right.
And, then when my son was born, so I have 4 kids. One is my bonus daughter. So they're expensive, right? We're all expensive. So I had started extreme couponing. And so like, we had a store in our basement. So like numbers are always, even though I'm like a scientist, I'm always with the numbers, right? And so in 2015, I was getting laid off and with a severance because I'd been at the biotech company for a long time. And I had the really, really, really bad boss. So I think that the powers that be were like, here's your opportunity to make your own life. So in 2015, one of my friends was like, hey, you should sell on Amazon. You're a hustler, and Amazon is a really great platform. And I had opened my account in like 2013 and like sold one thing of Zantac from my coupon stash, but I had never done anything with it, right? So in October of 15, I started selling like, Halloween costumes, just sitting in a box, but it was Q4. So I was like, well, this is easy. wow,
Right.
this is super
Yeah.
great,
The golden lenses of Q4.
Right. And I was like, wow, I can totally go to Target every day and buy their stuff. So, I had gotten laid off and I had all this time and I was like, okay. And then I actually got another job in corporate and in January of 16, and then came the dreaded, can you send this report at 3 p.m. every day? And I'm like, no, I don't want to send a report at 3 p.m. every day. So I did. I quit my corporate job, and on March 4th, which is, it's super scary because we were all corporate, like all my family's corporate, corporate, corporate. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to do whatever I want. Right. And so I did. The fortunate thing was my account was old. So I had tons of grandfathers. Like I could sell DVDs and
Oh,
like
that's
stuff
great.
you can't sell. Right. And then I had a severance. So I was able to channel some of that money into my business. So those are the big things that, were super fortunate for me. I was able to make mistakes and then it didn't hurt so bad because,
So basically, because the way I like to, because I've gone through that too, where like when I started the business, I lost my job. I had severance too.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, nobody really knows this about me, but I'm super like frugal, like minimalist. So at the time I was banking like 40% of what I was making anyways. And so they didn't give me much in terms of like how long of the severance I got, but that basically meant double whatever they gave me. And the way I viewed it was, dude, you guys just funded me for like multiple months. Like, this is great. And so like your job ends up funding your pursuits for what you want to do next. And it gets rid of a lot of that risk that is inherent in starting something from scratch.
Yes.
That's super cool. So
I was lucky.
yeah, for sure. It's a good position to be in. That unfortunately a lot of people don't get to experience, but when you do, it's fantastic. So is this right? So you paid off, because I want to jump back to the extreme couponing stuff because I find it very interesting. You paid off $30,000 in personal debt through couponing.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So all of our stuff, like our paper towels and all of that stuff was free, right? I would get it at some kind of ridiculous, and then I would buy more. So if we needed 3, I would buy 10, and then I would sell the 7 on Facebook, right?
Okay.
So then that would pay for all of our groceries, like all of our like meats and stuff. So then it was basically it was like a second job though, because like I stalked the coupon delivery guy. I made friends with him. We were friends for like 7 years. We called him Grandpa Dave. Like he was our other grandpa. Like, and he would give me 400 inserts a week. And so I'd go through and I would pick out all the things, and then I would coupon, go to all the stores and coupon, and then I would sell my overstock for our non-perishable items for our grocery. Because that was what drove me was, we are spending $150 a week on groceries. How can I make it not $150? And then taking that money and paying off our debt. So we paid it all off. Like when I'm divorced, and when I got divorced, we literally had no debt. So it was like, oh, that's kind of good when you're going through that kind of situation.
A little bit easier
right.
to handle.
So, and we were able to still live our lives, still go on vacation, and still, do that kind of, have our extras, because we weren't spending all of our money on like other stuff. So
no, that's great.
Yeah.
So you go through, you eventually get to a point where you're selling on Amazon during Q4. So you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This can never end. And then you hit Q1, you go, okay, why did it end?
Right.
What'd you do then?
I wasn't like full time, I just thought, wow, this is kind of neat, and then whenever I went full time, I was really diving into clothing, and sometimes it's hit or miss, especially with shoes, but tons of great clothing. So I got a lot of experience there. And then I did find some wholesale accounts and stuff like that. And then along the way, I feel like every season it's like a college class. You're learning more. You're learning who to work with, where to go buy your inventory. You're learning who not to work with. And I didn't get Inventory Lab for a whole year, and I regretted that.
Oh, it's so rough. Yeah, I did the same thing.
I know. because I was like, what am I doing with this Excel spreadsheet when
Oh.
everybody's saying inventory lab, inventory lab, inventory. So I finally got it, and I was like, life changing, because you can really see your numbers.
And it's funny that you mentioned earlier that, even though as a scientist, I'm a numbers person, to me, those go hand in hand,
Right.
like so heavily the way I view it. And so I feel like it's a perfect match, right? Because so much of science is the data behind it. And so it kind of
Right.
correlates pretty
Exactly.
well. So walk me through Ladies of FBA, this amazing group I keep hearing about that every woman in our Facebook group that I know is like, Jess of Ladies of FBA. Clearly, I'm not invited to the group, and that's okay.
Sorry. Like, you can be a special guest. I
There we
make
go.
special guest appearances.
Yes.
And maybe, So I had been in all the groups, the big groups, Rock Stars and FBA Master, and like just there's, thousands of groups. And so when I was couponing, I have my friend Jill. She lives like 30 minutes from me. And I was like, Jill, you have to start Amazon with me, because we were both couponing. We were sharing deals similar to Amazon, right? Only for coupons. And she was like, okay. And so she started Amazon around the same time that I did. And so she and I are navigating through these groups. We're asking questions. And my mentor is Sean Michael. Just give him a shameless plug. I was like, well, Jill and I were talking in one of our sessions. Jill and I were talking about a ladies group. He's like, why haven't you already done it? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it right now. So we just wanted a space. We're not prejudiced. There's nothing against men. But sometimes you just want your own coffee group,
Right.
And so Ladies of FBA was established in October of 2017, and we're like at 1,100 people, which is amazing to me.
That's huge.
And basically, we just want to help women in the e-commerce space. It's not, even though it says Ladies of FBA, we talk about all the platforms, eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, Bonanza, all of them. The focus is Amazon, but we're definitely interested in having people from all the different platforms, selling platforms. So, and then just a safe space where you can ask whatever question you want. We post, I record lives, I do Q&As, just to help new sellers or even experienced sellers with new information. And it just works. It's just the environment that we wanted to create. There's no drama. I tolerate no drama in my personal life with my 4 kids, and I tolerate no drama in my professional life. So that's helpful, So, and I keep it pretty spam free. Like, you have to make sure that you vet any kind of promotions or groups or any kind of courses or anything. You vet it with me so I can make sure, just to keep my ladies protected. I don't want any scams in my group. So, but I really love it because everybody is super helpful to everybody. Like, if I'm not around, if Tony's one of my admins and Jill is my admin, if they're not around, other people are answering your questions. And so, like, if you're out in the store, or if you're, have a question about online or whatever your question is, you can pop into the group and ask the question, and within a few minutes you get an answer, which, is really good resource, because you're like, sometimes you're hitting a brick wall and you're like, what? I don't know. And then I'm like, okay, ask all of your questions. So we've just kind of grown organically, and just, we just have a good time.
I love that. Like, I like the fact that it is, I don't know how to put it, like, not to say like segregated, but like,
right.
but there are differences in, like, I mean, obviously I'm in a lot of the Facebook groups too, like the most common ones, right? And so they are a bit different, and there are a lot of men, and that's fine too. Obviously I'm biased as well,
right.
but there's things that, and talking, to friends that are sellers, like Jenna Jackson, we're like, and you, right? It's like, you guys have kids, you guys are moms. I don't know what in the world that's like, right? So my advice might not be the most ideal, right? Me being 27 and single, not the easiest correlation between the two. So I like that you built a community where you can lean on people that are in, similar situations, or at least in an understanding situation of more of the variables going on. I mean, to me, it's really no different than creating a Facebook group solely for Amazon sellers in college. Right. But I love that because there's more context to the conversation, and it is fun when you build that tight-knit kind of community because it's vetted, because we do the same thing with our Facebook group where you're so protective. It's so funny.
Right.
Because anytime somebody jumps in our group and just starts spamming, I'm like, delete, block, get out.
Right.
You know, because I care about our people too.
And I'm okay with promoting services. I just want to get it vetted. I just want to have some referrals. And like, you know, I feel like that's my due diligence to my women in the group, just to make sure that the content is valuable. And so I just kind of like, you know, protected my ladies. So it's my niche, right? I'm a woman,
for sure.
So
no, that's cool.
That's what I did.
And I can see you getting excited, like as you're talking about it. So I can tell like you're passionate about it too, which is really cool. I can feel that and see it, which is awesome. Walk me through. So in your mind, ladies of FBA, is it just a community, or is there more to that you're trying to build with it?
Right. So now I'm branding it, right? So I built the community, but now you know, we have an Instagram where I share similar things like auto approvals and screenshots and stuff like that, which, you know, like I've never branded anything. I have studied bugs, right? So, so this is exciting. We have, you know, our logo and all that. And so I'm creating training modules. I am, you know, a coach, so that I have a mentoring program, and in the future we'll have a website. It's not done yet. But the good thing is like I can represent our group, and then people trust the brand because we've built it, right? The community, we've all built it together, and that's what I wanted. I mean, I actually didn't know that was ever going to happen. Like, let's be real, right? But because this is a lonely job, you are working from your home all by yourself pretty much all the time, or with your kids or whatever. But it isn't like an office. So this is my office, right? This is where I go to my lunch breaks and actually get to talk to people. And so now we're just building on top of that, you know, coaching and modules and different things. So, and I will get a YouTube channel. I mean, it's all been, everybody's like, why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? And I'm like, okay, hold on. I got it. I'm going to do it.
I need more coffee, less sleep. Let's go.
Yeah. What is this? So it's a community. And then there's mentoring. We have an Instagram, and we're doing training modules. I mean, I'm focused on retail arbitrage currently, but you know, we'll welcome every kind of.
You can't say that, Jess. This is a wholesale podcast.
I know, but I've done some wholesale, and that's where my next, you know, when I do my goals, because that's a big thing for me. Like, I want you to set goals when we're talking. I'm talking to people in my group, and wholesale is where it's at, because retail arbitrage for me is only going to be lasting for so long. Well, I do have wholesale accounts with beauty vendors, and some of them work, some of them don't, depending on their price and how they market their brand. But getting more and more. So it's like a slow build depending on where you lie. But, you know, wholesale is definitely on the top of the list, and then, you know, a few other things. So I know.
No, I like that.
I got to learn VinDrive. I got to learn it, because it's
we got to get you in there for sure. Yeah.
I know.
And, you know, obviously it's not that we hate retail arbitrage, because everybody gets started. I love retail arbitrage because it's a good starting point.
Right.
There's so much less risk. But once you've got this whole ecosystem, you know, process figured out, now it's like, okay, let's make it easier on myself. You know, I was talking with Chaz of Side Hustle Pro, and he's like, dude, it just clicked of why people love wholesale. And now he's like obsessed with wholesale. And he's like, it's amazing. I was like, good. Like, I'm glad it makes sense. But obviously it's not for everybody, and that's totally fine too. But it's a good stepping stone, RA, into wholesale, I think. Walk me through how you approach that from a mentor standpoint, of setting those goals. You know, how does that work for you in terms of a process?
So, I mean, I have mentored someone that has not even opened an account to seasoned sellers, right? So if you're approaching me, and you're saying, okay, can you ask the question again? Because now I'm getting my own sidetrack.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I'll make it easier, because you have that big of a spectrum. Let's say, you know, I'm within my first year of selling on Amazon. I have an account, at least. I've sent in maybe a few shipments, but I don't really have, you know, a process down, a clear mindset of what I'm trying to do, how to reverse engineer that. Walk me through how you would help me set goals for that and extract that from me?
So I say, because you have to remember that I am retail arbitrage, but I guess it doesn't matter, right? So I set
Either way.
goals as far as I would like you to research 10 brands a week. And by research, I mean you can research them from your computer. You don't have to go to the stores, right? You can see if you can get ungated. You can see what products you might be restricted in, that kind of thing. I set goals. Well, have you sent in a box this week? Can you send in one box? What about 2 boxes? And in 2 weeks, how about 3 boxes? Those kind of goals, of course, depending on their capital and the resources. So for me, I set attainable goals, but goals that are going to make me want to work, right? So like if I sold $500,000 last year, then I need to do 750,000 this year. If I sold 1,000 last year, then I need to do 5,000 this year. Attainable goals, and then crush them, because it makes you want to do more goals.
It does. It's so crazy.
I kind of just, right. It is. It's a motivator. So for me, I just see where they are and I add to it. Okay, you have. So I have them make a brand spreadsheet, and you can look at what you're approved in Amazon, but it's good to have a brand spreadsheet because you can say, for me, where you can source them. Like you can put in your supplier information. And then you can, if you're going to that supplier, then you can sort by that supplier and say, I can look at these 10 brands, right off the bat when I go to that supplier, whether it's wholesale or retail arbitrage or online arbitrage. So attainable goals, but I want you to tell me, can you do this in 7 days? Can you do this in 10 days? Are you going to do it in 15 days? And then you need to do it. I'm not here I'm here to help you and be your friend, but I want to see you grow. So, and that's what my mentor does. He goes, okay, well, you need to do this. And when are you going to do it by? And then I, like, internally and maybe on paper, maybe on my calendar, I say, I need to have 10 more SKUs by this day. I need to have 100 more SKUs by this day. I need to send in 5 boxes by this day. And so I think just like in corporate, you have project management. This is similar,
Yeah.
You're taking a project. I'm learning brands. I'm learning stores. I'm learning wholesales. I'm calling 10 brands today to get a wholesale or find a distributor. I'm calling 20, whatever it is. And then, helping them with their time management, because I think everybody needs help with time management.
Oh, yes.
And I personally have been coached on time management, and it is, once you talk it out, it's very helpful to get the other person's perspective, and then you just kind of like figure it out, like I have Meeting Bird now, so you can schedule with me with a link. And like I was doing it so manually before, but Amy Weiss met with me and we talked about it, and now it's better.
Yes, I love Amy.
Love her. So that's kind of where I am, like with goals. It's the same for me. I do the same thing. I write it down. I have a huge board over here that has all of my goals. And then I crush them, right? Cross it out, set the next one.
Yeah, so you get a few systems in there that I love. It's setting really like a stretch goal. Like it's attainable, but you're gonna have to work for it, right? And you can't. I don't like the word like attainable, only because when people do that to themselves, they make it like too easy, right? So I like that you put an emphasis on like it's attainable, but a little bit hard. Like you still gotta work for it, right? And then it's setting very clear goals. And then the third one that I love the most really is setting a time frame. So what's it? Parkinson's law. However long you give a task is how long it's going to take. So if you say I have 30 days to call 10 suppliers, it's going to take you 30 days. If you say I have 24 hours, it will take you 24 hours. So you have to have a timeline for everything, right? That's why I like when we're doing like our Facebook Lives in the Facebook group each week, and someone's like, oh, I want to do this. I go, cool, by when? Right? I mean, really, like, because to me, that's the only thing that matters, or at least without that, it can just fall apart, right? If you have up until infinity to get something done, you're probably never going to do it. You're just not, right? And so it's funny how you mention project management, because when you become an entrepreneur and you're not answering to anybody, you essentially have to be 2 people. As odd as that sounds,
and
you have
HR.
to be, and HR, right? Yeah. So when you're like in that roller coaster crying, you're like, no, dude, it's gonna be fine. You're like, no, but it's not, right? You gotta have multiple personalities. But you have to almost switch from, and the E Myth Revisited does a good job of this, of switching from the technician who does every single bit of those tasks, the detail tasks, like calling the actual suppliers, placing the actual orders, but you also have to be the manager too, right? So you have to zoom out and say, okay, if it wasn't me doing it, and let's just assume it was somebody else doing this work, how would I want them to do it? How would I hold them accountable? And then do that to yourself.
Yep.
And that's when things, honestly, in my opinion, when I started to do that, all came together. I'm like, oh, this is way easier, because I'm answering to myself, but I'm treating myself as somebody else. I might have a mental problem, but either way.
It's okay. I get it.
Today's episode is brought to you by GoAura.com, our AI-based repricing tool. If you're ready to take your sales to the next level, repricing is the way to go. No more manually adjusting your prices each day. Let our AI actually do the heavy lifting for you. And if you're sick of repricing tools dropping their activity and leaving you in the dark, Aura can help. With smart repricing strategies, an optimized platform, and instant repricing, Aura both reprices faster and holds the buy box for 65% more time than competing repricers. If you're ready to experience repricing reimagined, head over to GoAura.com to start your 14-day free trial.
Oh, or if I'm not going to be able to do these things, what can I do? Like for me, I do have prep assistants, and today one of my assistants is actually I made her a list, and she's got my credit card, and she's going to go buy these things because I have other things to do. So whether it's, setting your goals, reaching them, or delegating, and that's like the biggest thing for me. I've never been a manager. Except for my children. I've never been a manager. I was adamant in corporate that I did not want to be a people manager. I would be a project manager, but I would not manage people. I think I'm just like too emotional for that. But now, what am I? I'm all of it. I'm manager. And the thing is if you can do it, you can delegate it. Like it's okay. It's okay to delegate. And, writing SOPs and using a snippet, pictures, especially like for today, I gave her pictures. It's way easier than like a list. She's not going to know if it's 2.6 ounces or 4.7 ounces or whatever. So like, that's another whole part of it. Some of the people I'm coaching, they're ready to start delegating. Are you going to send it to a prep house? Are you going to hire a prep assistant? How do you do that? What do you put in your listing? Where do you put it? So it's all of those things. And then like for me, I have goals for May 31st because June 1st is summer vacation. So we want to be working only 4 hours a day in the morning and swimming every single day. So like, how do I get there? How do I get everything delegated? Should I be using a prep house? Those kinds of things. So yeah, but I never took any business classes. So this is new to me,
Yeah.
But it's okay.
But that's the majority of us, I mean, like I'm finishing my finance degree now, but I've taken management, but like right now I'm taking operations management, which is forecasting, resource planning, all this stuff. Compared to what I do with wholesale, that class is a joke because I actually do all those things in real life. So when they're like lead times was like, yeah, dude, I already do that. We're good. So yeah, I like the learning in the real world kind of stuff more so than the classroom.
Right.
But no, it can be really exciting when you get to that delegation phase or really scary. I think it depends on the person and the perspective of how's this going to go, right? Because if you tell yourself, I don't want to be a manager, I've never been a good manager, I don't like managing people, like you tell yourself all these stories, but then you're faced with the struggle of, but I have to if I want to grow. How do you make that gap? How do you bridge that gap, right? And so it's understanding that nobody who's done it the first time was the best at it. Like you're going to learn. It's always a learning curve. Right. But it's great because it enables you to do so much more.
Right. I don't need to be doing the prep. I don't need to do that, I can be spending that time spending money to flip more and grow bigger. And so it's been really exciting because the last year I've hired a lot of help, and especially in Q4, the girl that's coming today, she was laid off. And so she was like, I'll work for you. And I'm like, yay. But then she went back to corporate and I miss her. But, I'll find another, so then there's a goal of, okay, by October 1st, I have to have another prep assistant ready and doing everything that my full-time employee does, so, but that comes with growth, and it all shakes out, right? It all shakes
Yeah.
out. And I think you learn things like, let's do a trial period, because sometimes you have to let people go, which
Yes.
is never fun, but it's just part of it. And,
It is.
that kind of thing. So, yeah, so that's kind of like what I do. That's kind of what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I like how you're right now reverse engineering your summer plan, right? Because you're like,
yeah.
okay, here's where I am. Here's where I want to be at by summer. Here's what has to happen. Here's what I need.
Yep.
So now that's your focus point, right? But
Yes.
but it's great because when you do that, it's so much clearer, and it's less this daunting mountain that you have to climb, and more like, no, I need like a prep assistant.
Right. Or I need to get 10 wholesale accounts so I can spend $41,000 a month.
Right, exactly.
Or I'm going to have to go sourcing every day,
Yeah.
which is a lot more work. Well, it depends on, everything's going to be, but then that $41,000 a month that I'm supposed to spend is going to turn into 51 and then 61. And
Yep.
so you got to prepare for that. So that's where I am. I mean, so I get real crazy on the first of the month because I have a big goal. Like
Okay.
I want to send in $90,000 a month. So I get real crazy. So next week I'll be like, right? And then like at the end of the month when I've met my goal, I have like 2 days where I'm like, and then like it's like all over again, right? So like yesterday I was like, I'm chill. I met my goal. I crushed my goal, and I'll be a little bit chill today. But then come Monday, no, it's like go time,
Yeah.
So
it's the cycle, that's the thing I never really enjoyed that much about RA was it was such a cycle of exactly that, right? Whereas with wholesale, the thing that I do like about it the most is if you go hard during that cycle for, let's say, 2 months, you cannot do anything for 30 days, but you still have those accounts. As long as you're placing restock orders, you still have, right? I mean, you're getting paid dividends. That's the way I kind of view it, right? You've done the work, you're getting the dividend now. So the cycle could even be larger, right? It could be 2 months, 1 month, 2 months, 1 month, so that's kind of cool. Just you're really like stacking profitable SKUs. That's why I like it. So it gets me excited. It's nice because I joke all the time, but it's terribly true. I'm effectively lazy because I don't want to do every single thing. Like if I find that I'm doing the exact same thing every single day, I don't care how minor it is, I get really upset.
Right.
Like almost like angry about it because I'm like, this is redundancy. And I don't like redundancy, period.
Oh, I 100%. I have a website where I'm trying to use up all my rewards. And I just started talking to people, but you have to like click. And I'm like, how do I make these less clicks?
Yep.
And there's like a software where it records your clicks. What?
Oh,
so like,
girl. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? It's called
I do.
Wildfire. It's free. Well, there's several actually. It was life-changing this week. Like I can do so much. So
I'm not at the point of like James in terms of like develop, like he's an actual engineer, actual like full stack developer. Like he's on point. I'm not even close to that. But what I do, because there's sites where I want to automate them, but there's not a tool for it. So I can write code good enough to basically like, it's called web driving, basically just browser automation. So I will make those for myself for specific sites. So I don't have to do that.
Well, I need to do that. Thanks.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I know, it's great.
But like, it's the same thing. You're saying I have to do this task over and over, and then I'm like, whatever. Like, it's 37 clicks. How can I make it 7?
Yeah.
And then while I'm doing the 7, I'm doing something more important. While my little automation is doing the 30 clicks, and then I have, I can make a cup of coffee. I don't care what I'm doing, just not that.
Yeah, for sure.
So like that's like all of it. Like you're like, okay, what else can I do? What else can I automate? What else can maybe I could take a nap today. Like, like there's something.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. It's like, maybe I can like, be with myself and, enjoy being an entrepreneur for an hour. But, it's funny. I always joke about this too. Like a lot of us get out of, corporate America, our jobs, whatever. So we trade 40 hours a week to go work 80 hours a week.
Right.
It's funny to me, but at the same time, we're like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, I love what I do, though. Right. So 80 is like the new 20. It's fine.
Totally.
So in my speech in Miami past 2 or 3 weeks, I talked the latter half of the presentation about automation. And I was like, listen, the best way to get started in figuring out what to tackle is every task you do throughout an entire week, write it down. Don't solve anything. Just say, I did this. And then I did this. And then I did this. And then eventually you start looking for redundancies. What's something you did every day, Monday through Friday? Okay, let's tackle that first. And just go from thing to thing to thing. And then you can eventually start building systems for those things, right? Like I love Ari Meisel, and I mention him all the time, his framework of OAO. So it's optimize, automate, outsource. Same thing we did with this exact podcast, where I said, okay, I write out every step I did manually. I optimize it by reducing those steps. So even if I can't automate or outsource it, it's less steps for me.
Yep.
And then I was like, okay, what can I automate? That took away like 80%. And then what's left over, I can outsource to a VA, but there's like 3 things she needs to do.
Right.
It's great. But you can do that on so many different levels.
I know. And like for me, I'm like, the VA part is daunting, right? Because it's control.
Oh yeah. No, I totally get
money.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
And like because even we all make mistakes. I make tons of them. My assistants make them. We help each other. I keep my emotions in check. But what do you do when someone is making a mistake? So that's where because I'm friends with people like Santosh and people that have all these automation tools for OA specifically. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. But I have to set a goal around it. And I have to hire the first VA because you might go through many. So that's also on my goals. I'll get there, right?
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, you're going to go, like, your first VA is not going to be a good one.
Right.
It's just not, right? Yeah, right. Like, if you know that that's the case, and be like, okay, well, I know I'm going to go through 5.
Right.
If I can go through 5, I'll find one and I'll be good to go. But it's just, it's the same thing with like calling suppliers. Know that the first 5 calls, especially if you're not used to doing B2B kind of sales and being on the phone, probably aren't going to be that good. That's okay though. Just keep going until it gets better. But then at the end of that, you have a great VA or a great supplier.
Right. And for me, when I was reaching out to suppliers, like one of the things that I say for me, numbers, like money matters. you know, like
100% it does.
Whenever I was calling all these beauty suppliers, I found one and I told him what my sales were, and he was like, well, we get like 10 calls a day from Amazon people, but you sound really good. And I'm like, thank you.
Right.
So, but it's hard, you know, all the aspects you have to have a little bit of mistakes, you have to have a cushion for yourself that it's okay to fail. Mm-hmm. And then how do you do it right the next time? And that's part of it, you know?
I think it's also realizing too, I thought I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but actually it was in a Facebook Live I had Joel Smith come on, and we were talking. I was like, you know, I had a realization after looking into so many companies that I respect. And for some reason, I always had this perspective that they were really just well put together. They were just solid, well-run businesses. And then you look in and they're literally duct taped.
Right.
Like every business is duct taped. Every single one. So when you're sitting there like,
we're all winging it.
Right. You're like, right. So you're going like this the whole time, but people have this weird understanding or false understanding that because I'm doing this up and down motion, this roller coaster, that I don't have it figured out, when the reality is that's kind of all of us the whole time.
The whole time. We're all winging it.
Yeah.
We're all doing it one step at a time. And it works.
It's totally like that's the fun part of being an entrepreneur. Yeah. It's been like, I don't know how to do that. Let me go find out.
Right.
Like me and James didn't know how to launch a SaaS software company. Like, let's go figure it out and do it. Right. And here we are like a year later. So it's just doing the work, and there's so many correlations, but I wish more people would understand that side of it and say, okay, let's accept that roller coaster. Let's just accept the fact that, you know, it's going to be duct taped, and that's fine too. But going back to what you were saying, let's set those clear goals, those stretch goals. Let's set time frames on them. Let's hold ourselves accountable. Let's get into amazing communities that I can lean on, like Ladies of FBA. That way I have somebody who understands what I'm going through directly that I can talk to.
It was huge in Q4. Right. It was huge in Q4 to have Tony and the other women because those are long days for retail arbitrage,
Oh
but
yeah.
there's so much money to be made. But sometimes you just need accountability. Like I set my goals. I tell them I'm going to send a minimum of $60,000 in inventory every month. And then I do 90 because I'm crazy. And then they keep me accountable. Like I'm not trying to be boastful. I'm just like saying, this is what I need to do for my business. And then I need to crush it. And I need you guys to help me, and, that's just part of it. And we're all in it together, and we're all making crazy mistakes. And like for me, if I made mistakes, like I bought some return pallets, right? What was I doing? Well, I ended up basically breaking even, maybe losing money. But now I can tell you not to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's also what, part of the groups, helping each other prevent failure.
Yeah, risk mitigation,
Risk
as I like to
mitigation.
say.
There you go. That's what I needed.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll have all these people ask, like, Dylan, how do you know about like doing like all this stuff, like how to do risk mitigation, how to, why'd you learn to place test orders? Like, because I lost $2,000 on a wholesale pallet because I didn't look at the data. So
Right.
just don't do what Dylan did.
Right. Or Keepa. Learn Keepa. Like that's
pay
a
for
big
it
one.
now.
Like I think we had a few things that like if I were to say the top things that new sellers need to learn is setting up your business and all that, but learning how to read Keepa. That's where you make a test buy, and then you can go deep. Like don't do the deep yet. I know you're excited. Hold on.
Yep. Yeah.
So those are big in my group. Like, how do I know? And I'm like, okay, well, go to Keepa. It's important, and learn to read it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Search my group and search YouTube and search other groups on how these other sellers are reading it. That was huge for me.
And you can take a screenshot of the Keepa because obviously you don't want to share like the listings you're looking at. I understand that, but you can take a screenshot of the Keepa, post it in a group, say, hey guys, what do you think about this?
Yep.
30 people will jump in and say, hey, that's a very stable product, or hey, that's really volatile. You may not want to look at it, and here's why. Right. So that you can lean on the experience of other sellers without giving up, the ASIN you found, all that good stuff. Right. Which is totally understandable. But yeah, it's understanding that, but it's understanding too, you're just going to make some mistakes either way.
You're supposed to, so you can learn from them. I mean, we never just walk. You have to crawl, and then you have to fall down a whole bunch of times. Like I obviously have a toddler in the house,
right?
Same with business, same with anything, same with relationships. So, but we're here to help coax you along.
Yeah, say no, it's fine, just keep going.
Right, you're doing it. Don't give up. And that's even in corporate. We'd have these huge projects, and one of my favorite managers, his name was Jeff, and he said, what if this was a brand new initiative? And he said, what if you fail? And I said, I won't, because you say you won't and you don't. Like you make it work, you know? So that's,
No, I love that. Yeah. It's just taking it by the horns and going for it.
Right.
And just saying, yeah, whatever happens. But in startup world, it's just don't die.
Right. I still have my house. We're good.
Right. Like, I mean, but think about it. If you can still make mistakes and still keep going, that's still another at bat every single day.
Yep.
I don't care if you've been struggling for a year, for 2 years, just to figure this stuff out. If you can keep trying to figure it out, because eventually you will.
Yep.
I mean, it's a struggle. It's a hustle, but it's a business. That's why it's like, I always say it's got a low barrier to entry, but it does have a higher barrier to succeeding. It just does. It still takes the hard work. It still takes you getting uncomfortable. It still takes you understanding how to do bookkeeping, the numbers. You can't make any excuses. If you're like, I'm not good with numbers, well, go get good at it.
Right. You have to.
That's it.
And there are tools that we have, the Seller app and Scoutify. Like there's so many tools that make that even easy. I'm pretty good at numbers, but if I use my tool, it's way faster. I can do, click in the store, or when I'm researching online or whatever. So
exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. No, that's the side that I like. Obviously now with like VinDrive and Aura is taking all those data points and those numbers and putting them together and doing some fun stuff with it. It's getting really fun.
Aura is working out really great for me.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, now I realize I have to teach myself data science, and I don't know anything about data science. So here we go.
Here we go. Here we
We're
go.
gonna figure
We're
it
gonna
out.
do it.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's fine. All right, Jess. So what's one thing that, if you had somebody, one of the ladies in your group sitting in front of you, and they're like, hey, I'm right there, I'm right on the cusp, but I'm just not quite there yet of hitting my goals. What's one thing you would recommend to them or give them advice to help them get to that next level?
Well, first, are your listings optimized, right? Can you sell what you already have so you can generate more capital, so you can get more inventory, so you can reach that goal? Like, that's number one, right? Because we want to sell the inventory we have.
Yep.
Get it out. Move that money. Are you using a repricer? Because that makes a huge difference in your business model. It's helping you reach the buy box. If you need to liquidate things, like those kinds of questions, I'll be starting to ask them. And then what are you doing? What are you doing every day? Are you looking up your suppliers every day? Are you calling people? What are your goals? Stretch them out a little bit. You want to meet $10,000 this month and you're at 8? All right. Well, we only have 3 days left. So we need to optimize our listings. We need to find more suppliers. And, those are kind of the big ones. And then send in more inventory. Like, keep sending it in, So I get nothing is selling today. I'm like, okay, but that's okay. Just keep sending in, because that's not the focus. Like, time is very important to everyone, especially myself. And I can't dwell on the negative. Yesterday was not the best day, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm going to keep sending in, because I have a ton of inventory that's about to hit, and those days will come back, So those are kind of the questions I ask,
I love it. No, that's good. That hits on a lot of things. And there's things you can control, and there's things you cannot control. You can influence more sales, but you can't control it.
Right.
Otherwise, we'd all be doing $1 million a month, right?
Right.
But
right.
You can control how many hours you spend sourcing, how many hours you spend sending inventory in, right? You can control how much you're spending more so than how much you're selling. So
right.
Keep focused on what you can control, right? So Jess, where can people find, if they want to join the group, Ladies of FBA, how do they find you? How do they get plugged into what you're up to?
So Jess Hill on Facebook, and Ladies of FBA is our free group for women. And on Instagram, Ladies of FBA, ladies_of_FBA, right? And then website coming soon, right? And so you can always PM me. You can always, even if you're not a female, I still coach men, and that's totally fine. I'm actually coaching someone this afternoon at my house. He's my naturopath. He has all these accounts with supplements. So he wants to learn how to make his business more robust. So Ladies of FBA, Facebook, Jess Hill, my picture, and Instagram. That's building. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome, Jess. Well, thank you so much for taking some time.
Thank you, Dylan.
Cool.
Have a great one.
You too. Before we leave, I have a huge ask. If you enjoyed this podcast and you got value from it, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. The way we're able to have more impact on more sellers is by getting in front of them. We can do that by having more reviews and getting pushed to the top of iTunes podcasts. So leave us a review and let us know what you think of the podcast.